Hey, everyone, and welcome to the Mark Prater podcast, where our aim is to connect our global family of churches with our executive director. I'm sure by now, guys, will be getting this podcast in a few days from when we're recording it today on Wednesday. But I'm confident everybody has been reading and thinking about what's going on in Ukraine with the Russian invasion, praying for the people of Ukraine. But for us in Sovereign Grace, as a global family of churches, this is not just a theoretical concern. We actually have meaningful relationship with a pastor in Ukraine. Can you tell us about that?
We do, really, because of the Ark Church in Hamburg, Germany. That church is a wonderful church that we've had a relationship with for years. And at the Ark Church, they have the German Pastors College, and our own Jeff Percival has made several trips over the years, training German, Russian, and Ukrainian pastors in that Pastors College. So there is a man who graduated from that Pastors College that Jeff knows well. Is not only a friend of Jeff's, but Jeff is impressed with him, not only as a pastor and a leader. And Jeff's been interacting with him regarding the crisis and the war in Ukraine. And a couple of thoughts there. War brings seemingly pastoral issues that are much different than in the normal day-to-day life. And so Jeff was just recounting some of those, actually in an email that he sent to all of our pastors, which they can read, and in a leadership team meeting we had this week. These pastors in Ukraine, just through this man's experience, these pastors in Ukraine are working nonstop to care for their people right now. And so please pray for them. The other thing that's really occurring is the Ark Church is an important part of what's happening, because they are collecting supplies, food, water, first aid supplies, those kind of things, and they're trying to get them to the Ukrainian border so they can be then transferred somehow safely to this pastor that is leading a church in the Ukraine. So pray for our brothers and sisters in Hamburg, Germany, and their efforts to really serve our brother there in the Ukraine. Those supplies are especially needed right now. And one other thing, we made a decision this week, Jeff Percival, Dave Taylor, and I, to find a way to get some money to the brother in Ukraine who's leading and pastoring a church. And we were able to find one way to get money in. We hope that it's arrived to him by now. And so would want our listeners to know, to the podcast, that Sovereign Grace wanted to find a way to help, at least financially, support his work, his important work in the Ukraine right now.
That's excellent. I'm sure many of us have seen the headlines of Ukrainian pastors deciding that they will stay because they have a church to care for. And I just pray that God gives us all that kind of courage if our day comes where that courage is needed. So grateful to see their example. But our relationship with that pastor in Ukraine isn't the only relationship we have with pastors sort of in that region. We also, through the work of Kyle Huber over many years, have relationship with some pastors in Belarus. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, I'm so grateful for Kyle and the number of trips that he's made to Belarus over probably 20 years now, developing longstanding relationships with pastors there, several of which, 3 or 4, what I mean by several, do have desire to pursue partnership with Sovereign Grace. And so we've been talking with them. Kyle's been talking with them about that. But they are also facing, because they border the Ukraine, they're also facing new pastoral issues because of this war. And those pastors, even though directly at this point not in harm's way, are still working very hard around the clock in sort of pastoral crisis type situations to care for the church and try to find ways to care for brothers and sisters in the Ukraine. I know Kyle told me sometime in the last few days there have been some talk of potentially martial law in Belarus. So if you're listening to this podcast, please pray against that, if you would, and that God would really work to avert a more severe war at this point, not only for the Ukrainian people, obviously, and primarily, but also the impact that it has upon our brothers in Belarus and their churches.
Yeah, I'm grateful for Kyle. Shout out to my boy Kyle and his pioneering work in those relationships there. and I get to be on a Zoom call with these guys and Kyle here next week. So looking forward to meeting some of those brothers in Belarus. So thank you for the update, Mark. I'm sure we will all be praying for God's will in that part of the world. And we hope for better days ahead for Ukraine and for the pastors we're seeking to partner with and bless. So thank you all for watching or reading, and we'll see you here next week, Lord willing. Bye for now.
Thank you for watching. If you have questions or comments, Mark would love to hear from you. For more videos like this, hit subscribe on YouTube or by email at markkprater.com.